She claimed to be single, but her furious husband showed up at my door. Have you ever had one of those moments where your gut just screams, something isn't right here? I'm not the kind of person who jumps to conclusions or assumes the worst in people, but one particular experience changed how I see things, and people forever. I guess I should start by saying I'm a pretty normal guy. I'm in my late 20s, live alone, and work as a freelance web designer. My life isn't super exciting, but I like it that way. When I'm not working, I'm usually at the gym, gaming, or swiping through dating apps. Yeah, I know, dating apps can be a dumpster fire, but they're also kind of addictive. You never know when you might actually meet someone cool. That's how I met her. Let's call her Vanessa. Vanessa's profile caught my eye right away. She had this radiant smile, was into hiking and live music, and she had the kind of witty bio that made her stand out. We matched, and our conversation flowed like we'd known each other for years. She was funny, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. Honestly, it felt too good to be true. We decided to meet for coffee a week later, and she was just as amazing in person. She had this magnetic energy about her, the kind of vibe that makes you feel like the most interesting person in the room when she's talking to you. We ended up stretching that coffee date into an early dinner and then a long walk through the park. By the end of the night, I was completely smitten. Vanessa and I started seeing each other regularly after that. She told me she'd been through a rough breakup a few months earlier and was finally ready to put herself out there again. She never got into specifics, and I didn't push. Everyone's got baggage, right? She said she was single, so I took her at her word. For about 3 months, everything was perfect. We'd spend weekends hiking, binge-watch trashy reality shows, and grab late-night tacos after concerts. Vanessa always seemed a little hesitant to make things official, but she said she wanted to take it slow and enjoy the moment. I was fine with that, or at least I thought I was. Then came the knock. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was in my apartment, working on a client project. Vanessa had texted me earlier to say she was busy with work stuff, so I wasn't expecting to see her. When I heard the knock on my door, I assumed it was my neighbor borrowing sugar or something. When I opened the door, I found a man standing there. He was tall, mid-30s, and had that "I've had a terrible day and you're about to make it worse" expression. For a split second, I thought he had the wrong apartment, but then he said something that sent my brain into a tailspin. "Where's my wife?" I blinked. I think you've got the wrong place." He shook his head, holding up his phone. "No, I don't. This is your address, and this is where Vanessa's been sneaking off to. Don't play dumb." I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. "Wait, wife? Vanessa's married?" His face twisted with anger. "Don't act surprised. I know everything." At this point, my mind was racing. Was this guy crazy? Was he telling the truth? I managed to stammer out something like, "I had no idea she was married. She told me she was single." That seemed to take some of the wind out of his sails. He looked at me closely, like he was trying to decide if I was lying. Finally, he sighed and rubbed his temples. "All right. Tell me everything." I invited him inside. Probably not the smartest move, but he didn't seem like he was there to hurt me, and I needed answers just as much as he did. We sat down in my living room, and I told him everything. How we met on a dating app, how she'd said she was single, and how I had no clue she was married. As I talked, his anger shifted to something else, a mix of sadness and exhaustion. He told me their story. They'd been married for 6 years, but things had been rocky for the past couple. He'd suspected she was cheating for months but couldn't prove it until he saw a text pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. It was from me. Hearing all of this felt surreal. On one hand, I felt terrible for the guy. On the other, I couldn't shake the anger bubbling up inside me. Vanessa had lied to both of us, and I'd been dragged into a mess I didn't sign up for. As we were talking, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Vanessa. "Hey, just finished work. What's up?" I showed him the message. He stared at it for a moment, then said, "Ask her to come over." I hesitated. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I need to hear her say it." So, I texted her back, "Nothing much, just hanging out. Wanna come by?" Her reply came almost instantly, "Be there in 20. The next 20 minutes were some of the most awkward of my life. Her husband and I sat in silence, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. When Vanessa finally knocked on the door, my heart was pounding. I opened the door, and there she was, smiling like nothing was wrong. When she saw her husband sitting on my couch, her smile froze. Her face went pale, and she took a step back. What's going on?" Her husband stood up. "You tell us, Vanessa." What followed was a chaotic mix of yelling, crying, and half-baked excuses. She tried to deny everything at first, but when it became clear she was cornered, she broke down. She admitted to lying about being single and said she'd felt trapped in her marriage. She claimed she'd never meant to hurt anyone and just wanted to feel happy again. Her husband was furious, but more than that, he seemed heartbroken. I mostly just sat there in stunned silence, trying to process everything. Eventually, Vanessa left, and her husband followed shortly after, saying he needed time to figure out what to do next. The next few days were a blur. Vanessa tried reaching out to me, but I didn't respond. I blocked her number and deleted her from my life. As much as I'd liked her, I couldn't forgive the lies or the chaos she'd brought into my world. Her husband and I never spoke again, but I hope he found some closure. Looking back, there were probably red flags I missed, the hesitance to define our relationship, the vague answers about her past. But hindsight's 20/20, right? The whole experience left me feeling cynical about dating for a while, but it also taught me to trust my instincts and dig a little deeper when something feels off. So, yeah, that's the story of how I found out the woman I was dating was actually married. Wild, right? It's one of those things you think only happens in movies or Reddit threads, but I guess life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it.